Whenever it comes time to make the latest edition of Is It Worth It? Should I Play It? There's a series of games that I regularly come back to every year, and it always kind of boggles the mind because as we get older, the graphics don't necessarily get any better with age, of course, and the mechanics themselves are a little dated, but yet still manage to hold up. I think Icewind Dale is one of those games that, especially if you play the enhanced edition, it's going to look a little outdated in terms of graphics, but the storyline is still there, the gameplay is still there, the mechanics are still there. All of what makes this a really good game are still there, and I think it's definitely worth for people who have never even played the game, as well as those of us who like to go back every few years and do it for nostalgia's sake. So, when it comes to is Icewind Dale worth it? Should I play this game in 2023, 2022, whenever it is that you're watching this video? I would ultimately say that yes, although there are a few caveats depending on how exacting you are when it comes to graphics and gameplay. So the first thing you need to know is that this is not modern day 5th edition, or what they're calling D&D 1. This goes all the way back to 2.5, I think even 3.0 to some degree, because you're dealing with Thaco to hit armor class 0, which is a step back in time for many, many people, myself included, and I grew up on Thaco, but it hasn't been used for so many years that it can feel a little bit weird if you've never used it before. But it's essentially the old school system. It's not that hard to get around once you get used to it, but it does take a little bit of adjustment if you're coming in from like Solasta or the Pathfinder games that use the 5th edition rule set. But beyond that, the core elements of gameplay are here that you've seen throughout every single MMORPG and RPG that's ever come out in like the last 25, 30 years, which is you have a character creator that allows you to create a wide variety of classes. You can do what you want in terms of stats, and you can re-roll those stats over and over until you get the perfect alignment of abilities that you want, of stats that you want. You can then pick your abilities to create your own version of a specific class. And the one thing that's different between Icewind Dale and, say, Baldur's Gate 1 or Baldur's Gate 2 is that with the Baldur's Gate series, you're picking a single protagonist, and that protagonist is going to be the head of your party. And all of the other characters are going to have dialogue that resonates with that individual character. And it's pretty much about that one character's journey through the game, even though you might have side characters. And especially when you get into, say, Baldur's Gate 2, you can have some pretty elaborate side quests with the additional characters that join your party. That's not the case with Icewind Dale. Icewind Dale is very much about you being a party of adventurers, all of whom have traveled north. You met randomly in a tavern, and you met this guy named Hrothgar, and he wants you to go on this adventure. And if you all meld together, you can make your fortune and become a famous old adventurer like he is. And so the premise is that rather than being an individual on a journey, you are a group of adventurers on a journey. And what journey would be complete if it didn't start in a tavern setting? And that's probably one of the reasons this game has always remained so poignant for me, is because we get to actually have a classic adventure setting. You're starting off in a tavern, you're meeting together for the first time here, and you are going out and having an adventure from there. And if you work together, great. They also attempted to do that, and I think they did a very good job with Solasta when it came out, because Solasta, you also start off in a tavern, and it's kind of fun the way they do the character creation sequence there, where you all meet up together in a tavern, and then each person has their little backstory that you play through to show how they all got there. This isn't quite as elaborate because you can just have your characters created from scratch, but you could also choose to use the pre-created characters that they provide you with as part of the enhanced edition, and each one of these has a slight roleplay backstory that allows you to already have something in place if you don't want to come up with something on your own. Now, getting beyond the setting and the character creation, is the actual adventure, the actual journey. And here's where things can be as easy or as difficult as you want them to be. The base setting is no holds barred, pretty tough D&D. Like if you want to play it on like the normal rule set, it's going to be rough. You're going to be playing it essentially like it's a turn-based game, even though it's the pause-based system, you're going to want to play it turn-based if you're playing on normal mode or above. Now, if you want to just do it for the story, which I don't have a problem with, I think that's a great way to do it. Especially if you played the game before. Um, Usually, when I play games for the first time, I play them on easy mode, very first time, and then I adjust the difficulty there because I like story more than anything else. So being able to adjust it down to story mode gives you the option to like turn off character death and keep it really, really, really simple so that you're only really focused on the storyline. So mobs do reduce damage, so on and so forth, and then from there you can go up. Now you can take it all the way up to the heart mode, which is essentially it's not quite permadeath, but my goodness, is it difficult, and you can kind of get one shot by things. I think that's a little extreme, but you do have the option if you want to go that route if you've played the game a bunch of times and you want to just do something different. Now, as far as the combat goes, I find the combat in these old ISO top-down Infinity Engine games to be quite strategic in my mind because there's a lot going on and there's a lot of spells and mobs have just as many spells as you do, and these fights can be quite ridiculous in terms of scope when you start getting into the fourth and fifth level and beyond, because people have such a wide variety of spells at their disposal that there's a lot of stuff that can happen during a given fight. Now, some of these encounters are scripted, especially when it comes to bosses, so you've got a little bit of learning, but once you've learned the fights, they can be a little bit easier if you've got the right combination of spells and abilities to overcome them. But one thing I would not recommend is just letting your characters run nilly-willy into the middle of a huge encounter, because they may quickly find themselves overwhelmed. And then there's little treats like getting turned to stone in the middle of the fight if you're going up against a basilisk, which, by the way, that component in Baldur's Gate 1 was one of the most challenging sections of the game of all time, was that stupid cave with the basilisks, because if you got unlucky or you didn't have a protection against stone skin or whatever it is, protection against petrification. If you didn't have that, it was almost like game over. Game over, man. Game over. So here it's similar in the sense that you're going to have a wide variety of challenging encounters based on the difficulty level of the game that you choose to set. And from there, you can go forth and find yourself getting into troubles. Now, I don't want to spoil the story because you need to play through it if you haven't already done so. But I think the other thing that makes Icewind Dale such a great game is it has a great soundtrack, great narration. It's told in a chapter format similar to Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. And you do get a very classic Dungeons and Dragons story out of this that has a great conclusion and also sets you up perfectly to get into Icewind Dale 2, which in and of itself is a great game and I think has an even better soundtrack than the first game and enhances things beyond. But at the end of the day, is Icewind Dale worth it in 2022 and 2023? I think the answer to that is yes. I think it is worth it. I think that if you haven't ever played this game before, you should definitely give it a shot, especially if you can get it, for a reasonable amount of money, which is really cheap most days. Getting the enhanced edition will allow you to have, modern resolution scaling, which is worth it. And it's a game that I definitely think you should play through at least once, so you understand the evolution of D&D games and CRPGs over the years. So let me know your thoughts below. Do you like Icewind Dale? Have you played it? How many times have you played it? What's your favorite class combo? What's your favorite part of the story? So on and so forth. Like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. Don't forget to support if you can. It keeps me on the air full time. You can do super thanks on these videos. You can also do super chats and live streams. Join as a member of the Adventurers Guild. Don't forget the Patreon page. I'll see everybody in the next episode.